Board of Education meeting. Sue, roll call.
Dr. Johnson, Mr. McFadden, Mr. Kozel, Mrs. Black.
Here. All right, we will begin today's public comment with John Bertoli.
Thank you. Good evening. Good evening. Say it again. Good evening. My name is John Bertoli. My son is a junior at Lincoln Way North, and my daughter is in 8th grade. She'll be a freshman next year. I'd like to begin by addressing a few things which I've seen been going on over the past several months. Been directed both at the board as a whole and to members of the board. I think there are folks making personal attacks on board members, whether it's jeering and yelling comments at a board meeting, whether it's booing when they see a board member at a parade, whether it's comments made in letters and emails to the board, or just whether it's someone demanding your resignation, whether at a board meeting or some other place. I just think those things are wrong. This cannot be a personal attack on the board members or the board as a whole. There's just no place for that. Frankly, I like seeing board members when they come to events, if they're at a concert, if they're at a football game, if they're at other things, because that means the board member is involved and they want to see what's going on at the school level. And frankly, that gives you an opportunity where if you want to approach a board member, if you had a question about something, I'd like to think you could approach the board member and talk to that person, or if you had some question or give some input about something, you could do that. But frankly, if your board members are being treated like this, why would you ever want to go to an event like that? I mean, you have to be here tonight as a board meeting, but any other event like that with a school, why would you ever want to go to something like that if you're being treated like that? Again, I think it's just wrong. I have to believe the board and the members want to do what's in the best interest of the district, for the district and its constituents. And I think your decision you want to make is in the best interest of the district and its constituents. But I have to believe you want to make that decision based on all the information you could possibly get and all the correct information you can get in making that decision. And I think it appears that maybe you've made your decision to close Lincoln Way North and you don't have all the information you should have. Now, I handed up a list, I believe, that Dr. Cohen brought up to give you tonight, which are items I think you haven't addressed or that maybe you should address in your consideration in moving forward. These are just a few of the things I've put together. I'm not going to go through them right now unless I have time to do that, because you have the list to look at. But I think these are things you have to consider in order to make the right decision in this case. Now, I think it's been said somewhere along the line that you're proceeding in uncharted waters here. Well, I think maybe you are. But if you're proceeding in uncharted waters, you either proceed very cautiously or slowly, or you wait for somebody to give you a map or a guide. And I think maybe that map or guide would be something like the bill that Michael Hastings is proposing regarding the procedures to follow in the school closings that he's proposing to the legislature. So members of the board, I'm asking you to put your decision to close North on hold for a year. Wait 1 year, defer the decision until the 2017 school year before you proceed with that. Give this time to settle out, get the information you need, and perhaps with the Hastings bill as a guideline, you can follow the proper procedure and the appropriate procedures to get all the information you need to see whether closing a school, whether it be North or another school, is really something that's going to give you the net effect of what you're looking for, the net savings you're looking for, versus other options you have in other programs, whether they're consolidation of programs or they're deleting programs or whatever it is. Because again, with the list I gave you, and I don't see the need to go through that if you have it in front of you regarding what's going on, I think you need to get all the information before you make your decision to close North. And I'm asking you again, defer that for 1 year, give this time to settle out, and it might be better for the district as a whole. Thank you.
Glenn Arnold.
Good evening. In the 2 months since the board's decision to close North was made, a sea change has occurred in the course of this district that is now spreading across the state. I would like to emphasize 3 major points in that regard. First, State legislatures from this district, from both houses of the Illinois General Assembly, have introduced legislation specifically targeted at the way this school closing decision was handled. The bill is seeking answers to two separate but equally important questions. Was there mismanagement in the handling of the Lincoln Way District 210's finances? And what is the proper way for a school board to handle a school closing decision? Think about that for a minute. Two state-level politicians that represent all of the voters in this district, each from different political parties, see getting involved in this district's business as a political win. Second, for months, the community members in this district have researched the data used to justify the closing of the school and have uncovered abundant evidence that not only suggests that the board didn't have all of the facts when making the decision, it shows that the facts that they did have were incorrect and should not have been used to calculate the financial impact on the budget of this district. That data was summarized by Mr. Bertoli just a moment ago. Not a single piece of that evidence that has been presented by the community has been disputed by this board. Third, 2 weeks ago, the board announced that they would seek an RFP for a forensic audit of the district's books. They came to this decision after compelling testimony from the community members and unconvincing responses from the district's own auditor to questions posed by members of this board. Let's review for a moment. The state has two resolutions regarding the handling of this decision pending. The community has uncovered mountains of evidence that the decision was not supported by accurate data, and the board itself has undertaken a process to investigate improprieties. With all of these things going on, wouldn't it be prudent at this point for the board to take a breath and try to understand the ramifications of the activities that before proceeding with this decision? Does the board really want to move forward knowing that legislation pending in Springfield will most likely be called the Lincoln Way Law? As if all of this were not convincing enough, evidence that the school closing process was not enough evidence to convince that the school closing process should be paused, I would like to read a quote from this board's president taken from the Chicago Tribune on October 4th, 2015. These are uncharted waters. We will not be the last school district to go through this. The Hastings bill could be the blueprint for others. We didn't have a blueprint, but there are published guidelines available on the internet from the state departments of education of North Carolina, Ohio, Iowa, New York, California, as well as the Baltimore County and Chicago public school systems, to name but a few. All of these public procedures, aka blueprints, are for school closing. In addition, a guide from the Broad Foundation can easily be found. I have brought a copy here, and I will give it to the board upon the conclusion of my notes tonight. This guide is a preeminent resource that has been used by dozens of schools around the country as a template for evaluating the school closing process. All of these blueprints that I've stated tonight have two things in common. One, the process must not be rushed. And two, the community must be actively involved in the decision. Additionally, and I cannot stress this enough, the timelines and the blueprints can still be followed if the board wishes to do so. Just yesterday, the board's president was quoted again, this time in the Herald, indicating that he is 100% in favor of the Hastings bill that requires schools follow a blueprint while making school closing decisions. I would like to read a section of the Hastings bill. Senate Bill 2183 amends the school code to provide for the following transparency and accountability for school districts, and this is important, that voted to close a school building after July 1st, 2015. Should this legislation pass, the district will be required to undo everything that has been done now, at untold cost to the taxpayers, not to mention the emotional pain caused to the over 3,000 students, faculty, and staff facing relocation in the district. SB 2183 gives this board an opportunity for a do-over. I implore you to take advantage of that opportunity. I am respectfully requesting that the board vote tonight to pause the school closing procedure and create a task force that combines the subject matter expertise of the board with the select members of the community that have demonstrated an eagerness to find answers to the financial problems facing the district. The purpose of the task force should be to guide the development of a long-range, balanced budget plan that maximizes all resources, and then to make a recommendation to the superintendent to carry out that plan. Specifically, the task force should study school expenditures, alternate funding sources, and, as a last resort, school closing options. It is clear that this district's finances are in ill health. The taxpayers know this, the state knows this, and the board knows this. Yet we continue down a path that will result in the amputation of a perfectly healthy limb. That's not the cure. This is not fanciful rhetoric. This is a graphic depiction of the current situation. Surely the board is aware that this process is spinning out of its control. From Frankfurt Square to Manhattan, taxpayers across the district are being educated and demanding answers. With the legislation process underway at the state level, this is no longer a private issue that can be managed and dispatched by this board. Everyone is now watching. By allowing this process to continue, the board members bind their political futures to the same fate that they have dictated to North. The title of Lincoln Way School Board member used to bring respect and admiration. Don't let it become synonymous with mismanagement, waste, and a corrupted process. Finally, I ask each of you to answer this question. Will the closing of North solve the budget crisis at Lincoln Way? I can tell you the cost of dislocation and diminished opportunities for the children of the district, but no one can say with any degree of certainty that closing North will provide the cost savings required to put this district on solid financial footing. There are other alternatives that can be employed to close the budget gap, while still providing the children of the district the opportunities we all want for them. We need to work together to make this happen.
Edith and the remaining speakers, again, to recap public comment, it's 5 minutes per person, 30 minutes total. So at the 1 minute mark, we'll kind of let you know. I don't think we mentioned that to begin with. So.
Good evening. My husband and I moved here 17 years ago because of the school system, a school system that was considered the new Trier of the southern suburbs. In September, Lincoln Way hosted an application night for seniors. My son, who is a junior, and I decided to attend this presentation because it's never too early to be prepared. We learned that night that colleges are looking for students that are willing to challenge themselves with honors and/or AP classes. They are not necessarily looking for the A+ student. Also, unless you're going to a military academy, college ranking isn't even a consideration. After that presentation, my son said to me, "I wish this information was given to us freshman year." So being the parent that I am, I started to look at different areas which Lincoln Way may be doing a disservice to our children. Of course, the first thing is ranking, which you have already asked the advisory board to look at removing. The second item is the new grading system that has been implemented by the math department. If you don't know, the math department has started making assessments with 80% of a student's grade, with the ability for students to retake a test and receive full credit. How is giving full credit on a retake showing colleges that a child is challenging themselves? Also, telling a student their grade is composed of 80% from assessments and 20% from homework and participation in other projects becomes very stressful to students who are not strong test takers. In the past, quizzes have been worth 30% of a student's grade. And remember, a quiz shows a student and the teacher the information that needs to be gone over so the children are prepared for the test, which was worth 50% of the grade. I know that 30% plus 50% equals 80% for assessments, but the new formula of a straight 80% assessment is not only stressful for the students, but it's also stressful and time-consuming for our great teachers we have here at Lincoln Way. I then started to look at other top schools in Illinois to see how they were challenging their students. I found that they have senior projects that give seniors a chance to learn outside of the classroom. They were teaching honors classes and AP classes, along with a program called Project Lead the Way. Project Lead the Way is similar to an AP class in that students can take an exam and are eligible to register for college credits. Project Lead the Way classes are specific to engineering and STEM. Plus, they are in alignment with the national standards in math, English, and next generation science standards. So I'm here asking the board to please take this information and use it to fulfill your mission statement, which is on the website and the student halls. It is a statement which says that Lincoln Way is committed to providing the experiences and opportunities necessary to maximize the academic and social growth of all students. You as a board need to look at the past so that mistakes don't happen again, but you also need to move forward and make the children's education not just the best in the southern suburbs, but one of the best in Illinois. Thank you.
Robert Ripp.
Good evening. Just wanted to spend a few minutes going over some things that we've learned as a community since August, since the decision. The first thing is the board, through no fault of their own, I believe has made a decision to close the school with incomplete information. I think it's fairly obvious that a lot of items have come up that were not available on August 13th. Some of that missing information, financial statements broken down by building, reports were available and not provided to the board. Projected transportation costs for each of the 8 proposed school closure scenarios were not prepared, and therefore the board did not have the opportunity to have that information. Also, the cost to repair, update, and improve the items listed on the most recent life safety inspection by school report has not been prepared. Since this information was not compiled, the board did not have the opportunity to have this information. So what's transpired since August? September 2015, the district prepares and approves an FY16 budget with a deficit of $5.2 million. This is the first time in many years a realistic budget was prepared. September 2015, the board realizes it needs help with its financial reporting practices and hires a part-time superintendent of business from a neighboring school district. September 2015, a new Board of Education member begins to ask real questions of the district's longtime auditor. September 2015, the board votes unanimously to prepare RFPs for both a forensic audit and an external audit. September 2015, Representative Margot McDermott files legislation asking the Illinois Auditor General to conduct a performance review of state funds at Lincoln Way District 210. September 2015, Senator Michael Hastings submits legislation that would mandate certain basic steps be followed prior to any school closing. This proposed legislation includes a retroactive date of July 1st, 2015. So that leaves us with where we are today. I have a 3-step proposal. One is we immediately vote to rescind the decision to close any school pending the results of the forensic audit and the external audit. 2 is we establish a community deficit reduction plan committee composed of 2 community members from each of the 4 schools, a representative from administration, and 2 board members. The stated goal of this committee would be to prepare a deficit reduction plan document after reviewing each and every line item expense of the district. This committee would help evaluate whether the line item expense is necessary and whether the product or service can be obtained at a better price through competitive bidding. And the final step would be to establish a building and finance committee, also comprised of 2 community members from each of the 4 schools, a representative from administration, and 2 board members. This committee would systematically review the financial condition of the district and make recommendations to the Board of Education on matters of district finance. It would also oversee all building projects within the district and advise the board of the same. Thank you very much.
Deborah Hart.
Good evening. I stand here before you once again perplexed by many statements that I am reading in the media outlets, so I would like to take an opportunity to clarify a few things. First, I am not a parent in the boundaries of Lincoln Way North, since it is frequently indicated that there is just a small group of angry North parents. The petition which I presented at the last board meeting contained more than 2,600 signatures from taxpayers across the entire 105 miles of the Lincoln Way community. This is not a small group, especially in just 5 days, and I can assure you our numbers are growing. I am further shocked to read that you felt like there was no blueprint or textbook on the decision-making process to close a school. These are not uncharted waters. School closings happen all over the country. There is an abundance of information available if you simply Google best practices for school closures. In fact, I emailed a link to each of you with an example of that used by the California Department of Education. And again, I would also be happy to provide you with others. In all the examples I found, a district advisory panel of a cross-section of the community stakeholders, including parents, local business owners, and teachers, was established to give input and help in the decision-making process. This Board of Education and the administration chose not to work with the stakeholders in our community, only leading to ongoing speculation that there is a hidden agenda, financial mismanagement, or worse, financial wrongdoing in our district. As requested and voted upon by this board, a forensic audit must be conducted immediately. A forensic audit will allow for increased transparency, enhanced internal controls and procedures, and improved management practices. The scope of the forensic audit must include all transactions, conflicts of interest, review of internal controls, and recommendations for best practices going forward. It is my hope that the interim business manager can provide feedback for revenue generation, cost savings, and better recording and reporting practices. However, none of this is a substitute for a forensic audit. Schools belong to the community. Long after your terms as board members and school administrators have been completed, the Lincoln Way schools will continue to serve our community and its children. The decision to close a school in our community will have long-term impacts on the entire community, not just those who will possibly lose their school. Schools impact taxes and property values, as well as the quality of the education provided to our kids. Again, these are our schools paid for by our tax dollars. You are not volunteers, but elected officials. You are supposed to work for us and with us, not against us. I urge you to table the closing of any school in this district. We cannot afford to get this decision wrong. The right decision cannot be made based on bad and missing information. Only after the results of a forensic audit can this community move forward with a decision regarding a school closure.
Linda McCullough.
Good evening. I come before the board this evening to express my frustration with the current financial situation that we as a community find ourselves in, and you as the school board are responsible for creating. I live within our district boundaries, and though I do not have children, I am a taxpayer whose hard-earned dollars are spent by District 210. My husband and I moved here in 2013 from an area whose school was in financial tatters, and we know firsthand what kind of impact the finances of our local schools can have on our property tax bills and home values. We wanted to move to an area who is managed by people who are fiscally responsible with our tax dollars, and sadly, 2 years later, we've learned that District 210 should not have been on our choice based on that criteria. I have spent countless hours discussing the 210 situation with friends and neighbors, most of whom do not support the idea to close north. We have pored over financial documents and exchanged information, fact-checking each other along the way with the little documentation that the district is willing to provide without a fight. We've discussed other options and sought out ideas to generate revenue without raising taxes. Some might say that we've been doing the job that we elected you to do. These are the things that I've learned over the last few months. The district has been deficit spending for years, but has yet to implement a salary freeze for administrators and support staff, and I would appreciate such a freeze be implemented before closing North. The district was buying lots, building homes, and selling residential properties, even during deficit years, according to Will County and ISBE records. It appears that the district still owns several lots, and I anticipate hearing a plan from you to sell them before closing North. More than half of the custodial bills for the schools were being paid out of the transportation fund for fiscal years 14 and 15, unless we are paying $1.7 million to clean buses. It also appears that several other funds have been misused. For example, the district's 2015 summary general ledger shows $140,000 in athletic entry fees paid for all 4 schools, but only $117,000 worth of checks in the 2015 check register coded to the same line item, a difference of $23,124 worth of expenditures that were not accounted for. It appears that the auditor refers to a similar finding in the 2015 AFR. I find it difficult to believe that any of you based your decision to close Lincoln Way North on financial records, as it is clear that the financials for the district are in such disarray that it would be impossible to discern the true cost of each school, let alone the amount saved by closing any of the 4. As a childless taxpayer, I do not have a dog in this fight, so to speak. I am not swayed to hold one school in higher regard over another, nor does it matter to me which school is shuttered. Everyone in this district, regardless of whether your home is in Frankfort, Mokina, New Lenox, Tinley Park, or Manhattan, will continue to be responsible to pay the bonds that were issued to build North and West until 2033, and because of that, I find the decision to close either of them to be reckless and unnecessary. Closing any of the 4 schools should have been a decision of last resort. Today I learned that the district pays the Lincoln Way Foundation Executive Director a salary and benefits package. The director has done an outstanding job and may very well deserve her compensation package, but that is a decision to be made by the foundation's board, and her salary and benefits should be dispersed from the charity's bank accounts, not those of the district. I cannot help but wonder what expenditures you failed to consider to cut prior to making your decision to close North. As a taxpayer who has looked into some of your financial records and learned that non-existent studies were cited in your decision to close the school, I can only assume that your motion to close Lincoln Way North was made in an arbitrary and capricious manner. And on behalf of many of the taxpayers in our district, parents and non-parents alike, I ask that one of you stop this madness and make a motion to recall the school closure vote tonight while there is still time to implement cost-cutting measures and save all 4 of our beloved schools.